Call the meeting to order. Everybody please stand for the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in this decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessings and all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I need a motion to accept and place on file.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was excited to get going. Okay, roll call. Thank God.
Counselor Elliott. Here. Counselor Kennedy.
Here.
Counselor Leahy.
Here.
Counselor Mercia.
Here.
Counselor Milanazzo.
Here.
Counselor Noon.
Here.
Mayor Samaras.
Here.
Counselor Cirillo.
Here.
Counselor Conway.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Mercia. I might be taking some lessons. Okay. Thank you, dear. Okay, I need a motion to accept and place on file minutes of the City Council. I'm going to do this first. Okay. Council inauguration, 2018, January 2nd, and the City Council minutes, January 2nd. Motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
Councilor Milanazzo, and second by Councilor Mercia. We now have a moment of silence. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment in silence and darkened chamber for Craig Gates. Craig was a longtime companion of attorney Brenda Maley. Craig was employed as the executive director of the Lowell Folk Festival Foundation for the last 6 years. He did a yeoman's job, and the Folk Festival ran so smoothly because of his dependability, professional expertise, and because he was a stickler for detail. I just want to add to that part. Many years ago, when I was the mayor, we traveled to Bismarck, North Dakota, and Victoria, British Columbia, and Craig was part of that team. He was a part of that team not just because he was the director at the Songus Arena, but he also was very good with the ice. Now, if you think that you're having a curling competition and people are just going to come from all around the world and get on that ice and do curling, that's not going to happen. You have to drain all that water, turn that ice to water, drain it, put a very delicate, intricate type of a mixture together to form a specific type of ice. It's not just like any other ice. He had to learn that. He had to utilize that. He had to make that happen, and he did so with such precision and expertise. So people don't know the ins and outs of all the things that he did, but I wanted to make everyone aware of that. And it went off without a hitch. He did a tremendous job. Prior to that, Craig was employed for 22 years as the general manager of the Songus Arena in Lowell and as a manager at the Worcester Centrum. Craig was a big part of our team that brought curling to Lowell. He loved this city, and we all loved him. In addition to his beloved Brenda, Craig is survived by his 4 children, Ryan, Casey, Molly, and Kristen. We offer our condolences to his family, relatives, and many friends. I'd also like to offer a moment of silence and darkened chamber for another gentleman who is also associated with the Folk Festival, as well as with Winterfest and many other charities, such as the Salvation Army, and he is none other than our beloved Ricardo, Richard Rourke, beloved husband of Catherine. Richard was the son of former mayor and state representative Raymond Rourke and his wife Rita. He attended Keith Academy and went on to graduate from Stockbridge School of Agriculture at UMass Amherst to pursue his love of the food business, opening up his very own Ricardo's Cafe Trattoria 18 years ago. He then opened Tutto Bene, a leading wine shop on Prescott Street. Richard was a fabulous friend to many. He had a tremendous work ethic as well. In addition to his wife, Catherine, Richard leaves behind 2 sons, Patrick Rourke and Colin Rourke, and his delightful granddaughter. Within a few days of each other, Lowell has lost two outstanding gentlemen who gave of their time, talents, energy, and love to the city that we will feel their loss for many years. Our sympathy to their family, relatives, and many friends. They will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier, and I agree with you 100%. Greg Gates, especially as high school headmaster, he always dealt very well during the graduation times, making sure we got a fair price, and he helped put on a great program for the students of Lowell, so, as well as Ricardo. Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mayor Samaras. I'd also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for James C. Shannon, Jr., 91, a member of a well-known Lowell family and a longtime resident of the Belvedere section of the city. He died peacefully Saturday afternoon, January 6th, at the Saab residence of the Duval Senior Care in Lowell, surrounded by his loving family. He was the beloved husband for over 64 years of the late Margaret M. Peggy Shannon, who died in 2014. I'm actually going to call him Mr. Shannon going forward and not Jim or James. I grew up in the household on Andover Street with his kids, so I always knew him as Mr. Shannon. And Mr. Shannon was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, July 20th, 1926, son of the late James C. Shannon, former governor of the state of Connecticut, and Helen M. Shannon. He was a proud veteran of World War II. He served his country as a member of the United States Navy as part of the Seabees unit, and he later served in the United States Army, where he was a first lieutenant in the Adjutant General's Corps. Jim graduated from Georgetown University, and he was a beloved and active alumnus of Georgetown University his entire life. He was a respected advisor and confidant to serve several presidents of Georgetown, and he also was past chairman of the board of Georgetown University. Really a remarkable man. Mr. Shannon was a member of a number of noteworthy boards and clubs in the Lowell and Greater Lowell area. I knew him again as a devout Catholic and communicant of the Immaculate Conception Church in Lowell for over 65 years. He was a Eucharistic minister and a senior advisor to the parish. He's survived by three daughters and 3 sons, 13 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren. He's also the sister-in-law of Helen M. McNamee of Lowell. Mr. Shannon was beloved by many of his, by many because of his constant smile, helping hand, quick wit, and passionate devotion to his family, his faith, his friends, and his community. For those who knew him well, he will be deeply missed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll darken the chambers. Thank you. I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules to allow the city manager to talk about the recent snowstorm and some of the problems that occurred. Thank you.
Second.
Also, Councilor Leahy had also put in a request so we can inform our constituents as to what did happen. And Mr. Manager, if you could also touch upon the repairs at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think all in all, the Department of Public Works did a tremendous job clearing the snow. It was a difficult snowstorm because even once the snow stopped falling, the winds were blowing the snow from the yards and back onto the streets, so they continued to plow. I personally took a walk downtown today, and the streets, the parking is very ample in downtown, and the sidewalks look good. I think it's important, though, that we do a presentation, again, by Mr. Bellegarde. He has a wonderful chart that's color-coded that shows the different responsibilities of the different departments in the city relative to each snowstorm. And I'm planning, and I know Councilor Milanazzo has a motion on the agenda for this evening. I thought it would be appropriate for next week that Mr. Bellegarde come to the City Council meeting and make that presentation. So everybody, not here, only here on the council, but out in the public, understands the different responsibilities and the priorities of plowing in the city. The other big issue we had, and Mr. Bellegarde's here to answer any questions about the plowing, but also for the past week, we've had a terrible, terrible time with frozen services at private residences and at apartment buildings. I personally went with Chief Winwood with the Moeller Building on Middle Street and to River Place, where they had water breaks, there were so many water breaks and frozen water pipes throughout the city that the fire trucks weren't even returning to the fire stations. They were just going from one house to another to try and resolve the issues. And probably the most disheartening thing that's happened in the past week is the flooding at the Pollard Memorial Library. I always viewed that as one of the nicest buildings in the city. And the library was open until about 5 p.m. Saturday evening, and then sometime after that, we estimate sometimes Saturday night or early Sunday morning, a pipe, but of all places, up in the attic rather than on the first floor, up in the attic burst and caused extensive damage to all floors of the library. But we're committed to restoring that library to what it was before. Thank God a lot of the artwork wasn't destroyed with the water, but a lot of classic books and computers were destroyed that we're going to have to replicate. But we're committed to replicating that. And at the high school, as many of you know, I took the stance that we had to just bite the bullet and take care of the issue, not only at Lowell High School, but at other schools. We had problems at other schools and other public buildings. We had some elementary schools, such as the Pawtucket Memorial. We had the Daly School. We had 2 fire stations. We had the Lowell Memorial Auditorium that were without heat or very low heat. So what I did is I had Connor Baldwin identify resources in the budget, in the capital budget, and we hired 2 outside contractors to come to Lowell High School. One was concentrating on the software and the mechanicals in the 1980 building, and the other contractor was concentrating on the mechanicals in the 1922. You can see I didn't go to Lowell High. 1922 building and the athletic complex. My reports today is that everything is up and running. We haven't had any complaints of any serious issues at the high school or in any other schools or buildings other than the library. So the reason we wanted to bring in the contractors is that gave us the opportunity to concentrate and cure the issues at Lowell High School, but it also freed up the DPW workers to go out into the other buildings to be able to take care of that, because we couldn't leave those alone without any heat. So it's been a lot of work that's been done by both the DPW and by the private contractors, but it looks like the heating is getting back in shape. So once again, I think it would be a good idea to have Mr. Bellegarde come next week, give that presentation on the protocol for removal of snow in the city, and answer any questions, not only for the City Council, but I'm sure the public would be interested in it.
Councilor Conway first, then Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I have received a few calls in regards to, and I understand what these people are talking about, the opening up of the streets. There's still quite a few side streets that are extremely narrow at the very end. Is there do we have a process in place that will be able to rectify those situations?
Oh, yeah, people call the DPW, people call the manager's office, or they use eGov to alert us of these situations. So if you just give us those streets, we will have the streets department attend to them at the immediate.
And also, people have told me, I've noticed it on a couple occasions, but people have mentioned that cars that were not removed, and of course it makes the job of the plowman extremely difficult to clear that street. What do we have in place for individuals that And you can see what I'm talking about, where the cars are just snowed in, and it looks like they're not gonna be moving for a while.
Well, it's interesting, in the first snowstorm of the year, to show you the difference between enforcement of a parking ban and the effect it has on snow removal. The first snowstorm we had, we only removed 7 cars from the streets during that, and the plowing wasn't very good at all. This time, we had a full-scale effort at towing vehicles, and the police report to me that we towed like 250 to 300 cars during that period of time. But if there are still cars that are impeding the roadways, we can have those towed.
And the other question, there was 2 other quick points here. The other one was sidewalks, asking about how do we get the, and I've driven by, I've seen a lot of sidewalks that are not shoveled. So I mean, I know that's a difficult, one.
It's a great question.
You know, a lot of especially what's been brought up is the fact that, you know, kids in the neighborhood and they have to walk on the street, so.
I haven't walked down Stevens Street in 2 weeks, so I understand what it's about with the sidewalks. Basically, what we have, and we'll have a presentation again next week by Development Services, is that, again, through calling the DPW or calling the manager's office or through eGov, we will get complaints about sidewalks that aren't shoveled. What we will then do is send out one of our inspectors from Development Services, and they put a warning on the door. And then they give them a couple of days, and they come back, and if they don't have their sidewalk cleared, then we will issue a fine of $50, and we can do it daily until it's cleared. We also provide a list of organizations that are available to do shoveling, like the ROTC, or other organizations through the mayor's office that sign up that will do shoveling. So if there's an elderly couple or individual that are disabled that can't shovel their sidewalk, we'll reach out to them to make sure that it is. In the senior center, Councilor Cirillo and I met earlier about this issue, but the senior center has a list of people that sign up to say that they can't take care of their sidewalks, and they reach out and make sure that they're taken care of.
And just one quick last point. Last week I took a tour of the high school, and there were a number of rooms that obviously were very cold, and we're talking about somewhere in the 50s. Also, when I went around, I was a little surprised at the maintenance, and I know that we're going to be getting into this in a lot more depth as time goes on, but you know, where the tunnel would meet the building, there was actually snow inside, and the fact is that, you know, the molding around that has been rotted away or wore away or whatever, and it hasn't been maintained. So it brings me to the last point, and that is, going forward, whether it's the high school or any other building, I think we have to take a very, very good look at a PM system, and I know that people are going to say, oh, we have a PM system. Well, we might have a PM system, preventative maintenance, but it's not effective. So I think we really have to work on that as you know, as city councilors, administration, and all the different departments, so that we can be more effective in maintaining those buildings.
Councilor,
Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the parking ban. I guess I was pleased to hear that we towed between 250 and 300, but there's still people that just park on the street, and it's not personal with these folks, and I understand it's, you know, they don't have a place to park, but it becomes a problem. I mean, luckily there was a thaw, but if this weather continued, then it creates the problems that Councilor Conway was talking about with the narrowing of streets, and it's a problem. So there are still cars out there. So do the police continue to tow after the snow ban is lifted? Because essentially they've created a sort of a safety hazard because the snow's in the road.
Yeah, if we get addresses, we'll go out and attend to those cars to make sure that they're. We actually ran out of spaces to park the cars that we towed in the different. We've run into that before. We had to use Cawley Stadium parking lot to park the cars. We may have to do that again in the future. But we'll continue. You can see the difference between enforcing the parking ban and not enforcing the parking ban.
Right.
And quite honest, I think we have to be even more vigorous in enforcing the parking ban.
How do we get the message out? Does the city, Lowell, does the city have a Twitter account?
Yes, we do.
Most of the youngers, you
Yep, we do.
tweet it out.
We do it on social media. We have what's the telephone called, the code?
Reverse, well, it's not reverse 911.
The reverse
Okay.
911 we do.
But, you know, that the only troubling aspect of this, people have to sign up for that. And lots of people don't sign up for it. So, and I've received more calls than not. How come we don't get the calls anymore? And because since the new system was changed, folks have to sign up, I believe. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but, I mean, that was always a good system, I have to say. I think the word got out very well with people, and sometimes people got annoyed with it. I understand that, too.
I heard Tom Kennedy at least 8 times this past week, but yeah, they can go on the website and sign up for it.
Okay.
But the police do go down the streets
Right.
with their lights on.
And let people know.
And
Okay.
their loudspeaker and say there is a parking ban in effect, move your car. And we had 3 garages open for parking. So we'll continue to try and find even better ways of
And
communicating.
you know, it's in the
it.
neighborhoods where there are a lot of, you know, immigrants, and they
Right.
may not be signed up for, you know, for Twitter or Facebook, and they literally don't know. So it's, I know we do our best to get the word out. I only had one more question, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to, do we have any insurance coverage on the library? Is that something that we don't take out insurance for sort of catastrophic?
Only catastrophic. We have like a $500,000 deductible. We're essentially a self-insurer.
Right.
And, you know, but we're going to be
Do you have an
able-
estimate for what the damage is?
2 to 3,
Yeah, I don't have-
$350,000 to do cleanup and all the repair, because the flooring has to be taken up. We just put in $150,000 worth of carpeting, which has to be repaired. So essentially, we are a self-insurer in the city. We have catastrophic insurance, but it's anything over $500,000.
I just wanted to follow up on the senior center. I want to, applaud the administration for keeping it open day after day after day, and we saved lives, in my opinion, during this unprecedented cold snap. And I think that, we get the news when people die. It's not a good thing, and as best as we know, that has not taken place.
We kept it open for 2 weeks straight, and I really have to congratulate Chief Winwood, George Rose from Emergency Management, and the Red Cross, and Michelle Romalo for the tremendous job that they did. On Sunday, we had 38 individuals at the senior center, so it was still cold on Sunday morning, and they certainly utilized the senior center.
All right, well, I think that's a great thing, and 38 people were in a warm place considering the crazy temperatures. Thank you,
Thank
you, Mr. Manager.
It'll
Thank
be
you, Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Kennedy, Councilor Silverlid, and Councilor Mercy, then Councilor Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to take this opportunity, since Councilor Conway brought up sidewalks, I was just going to take this opportunity to let people know once again that there is a program that the mayor's office runs in conjunction with Lowell High School, and that there are people that have signed up, students, to volunteer to shovel snow for people that can't do that. So I think there's a small army of about 30 students that have signed up this year so far. I know the manager brought it up, but I think it's good to just keep on mentioning it. And along that vein, Mr. Manager, you mentioned that there were 3 garages that were available for people to park their cars in. Could you just tell us the 3 garages, just so that it gets out there a little bit more?
It's the Ayotte Garage, the Lowell Locks Garage, and the John Street Garage.
Thank you.
All set. All set. Councilor Cirillo.
Yes, Mayor, through to the city manager. Thank you for meeting with me today. I just wanted to bring up the elderly and disabled when their cars are in the road, what you spoke to me about with regards to how we handle the elderly and disabled cars that are in the road, so that people, the people of Lowell will know how we handle that as a city. So if you don't mind speaking to what we spoke to about.
Yeah, Michelle Romalo in the Senior Center does a wonderful job of reaching out to senior citizens and disabled, and if they have any needs relative to shoveling or their cars, they will attend to them and make sure that it's taken care of. So if you do have a need in the future and you're elderly or disabled, call the Senior Center and get on their list, and they'll help you out in the future.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, you were right on the money when you talked about our city workers and the yeoman's job that they did. Let me just reiterate that, because when we think of city employees, we probably think they're sitting behind a desk or they're in the comfort of a warm building. But when the going gets tough, these people that are city employees are tough. They go right out in the neck of things, and they face the water breakage that we had. It was one right after the other. And you don't realize in the coldest days they're out there. Not only is it cold and windy, but they're dealing with water issues and plumbing problems and broken pipes. We don't really think about this. This is not a glamorous job, and I know they get paid to do their job, but let me tell you how grateful we are that there are people that go out and do the work while we sit in and we're warm. And it's just amazing. And when I say that, I don't only mean the water department, wastewater utility, the fire department goes out and battles fires with water and the wind and the cold. We don't realize the stuff that this does to their bodies, and so I'm very, very grateful. This is a time to focus on that. We don't think of these things until we realize that this happens, and I wanted to say thank you and a job well done. Thank you so much.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mayor Samaras. Through you to the city manager. Councilor Mercier is correct. It is hard work, and they did do a good job. I did get a couple of calls inquiring as to whether or not we still have snow spotters that are actually out there and following either our own plows or the private. So the answer is yes.
Yes, we do. They're mostly from the engineering department.
Okay.
That drive around and try and make sure that they're clearing the streets properly. But there's still going to be some intersections or other things
Correct.
that need,
Right.
or a snow pile that's probably too high, and they can use eGov is the best way to communicate. But if they need to, just call the city manager's office or the DPW, and we'll attend to those.
I think the main complaint that I had heard, and again, we had what they called it, the bombogenesis or whatever, the snowstorm, was that some of the streets were just too narrow, when they plowed too narrow. And I had one constituent call to say that I stopped the plow drive, very polite, had a very good exchange, and they said the reason we're not plowing closer to the curb is because there are two sidewalks, or the sidewalk on both sides, to which the homeowner said, there are no sidewalks on this street. Again, it was a private company, and there were no cars parked there, so he actually went back up the street and went down both sides again, so he actually satisfied the homeowner, which the homeowner wanted to tell me, but he was under the impression that there were sidewalks, and that's why he was doing a narrow run. So as long as there are snow spotters, and we can correct things like that, but...
That's an excellent point, though, because I've seen it. My administration's policy is curb-to-curb plowing.
Right.
And I noticed on Pine Street, there wasn't curb-to-curb plowing.
Right.
And so we will attend to that and make sure in the future that it's curb-to-curb plowing on every street.
Okay, but again, as Councilor Murphy said, they did yeoman's work. I mean, some of them were 12, 14, 15 hours before they saw their families, so thank you.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mayor. Quick one through you to the managers. With regard to the library, Mr. Managers, how many days was the library closed due to the pipe broke?
The library has been closed since Monday morning, and it will remain closed, and I'm estimating that probably until Friday, because we have a lot of cleanup work to do. We've still got to make sure that everything is dried out. We have to remove some maple flooring, and we just want to make sure that and quite honestly, it doesn't smell very good there right now, and so we want to make sure that the library is in good shape when we invite the residents back in. So we're looking at Friday, but if we can do it earlier than Friday, we will do it.
So it's Monday to Friday, this coming Friday, so basically cleaning and making sure that there's no smell, no odors and stuff, but the actual fixing hasn't started yet, has it?
No. I mean, ServPro has been there, making sure that they're drying out. They've got the fans and... dehumidifiers and everything to make sure that there's no mold or
You have estimated almost $250,000 to.
more than that.
Yeah, so where do we get the money to do that?
We'll probably be asking for an appropriation for that.
Donation, you mean?
What's that?
Donation.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I said we may have to double the fines, but
right.
we'll probably be looking for an appropriation for it.
I heard you said that the high school heating system back on track because of the two contractor that you hired. So those just a temporary basis contractor to take care of the low-high heating, or are you
Yeah, it's there
planning-
temporary to get it back in order.
Okay.
And basically, Train, which is coming in, is going to replace the existing software program because that's outdated and not working. So that's going to help out in the 1980s building. One of the biggest issues was the software program, not identifying where the issues were. So, and then they're going to get it back in working order, and then the DPW will maintain it.
So the DPW taking care of other school and the fire department, are all those facility, the fire department, the fire department and the other schools, are the heating system now taken care of, or?
My
is there a
understanding
problem?
is that the school system, especially the Pawtucket Memorial, we were having a real problem there, but I understand that's been taken care of. The Butler School, I know we had an issue with. I believe that's been taken care of. The fire stations, Chief, have they been, you had 2 fire stations that had problems?
Yes, the Old Ferry Road Station has 2 heaters on the apparatus floor. One is not working, so I'm told there's another one on order. The Civic Center next door, again, the apparatus floor, the heaters are rolled over there and they have to be addressed, so I'm working with Jim Green and Tom Belgard on that one. And unfortunately, today we had a controller go on the heating system at Branch Street. So again, the DPW's got a part on order and they're working on that one as well.
Thank you, Chief. I agree with Councilor Conway. Going forward, we need to have a good preventative management in all our city building and school building, because we can't just react to, when crises happen. So and I think going forward, we need to have some sort of discussion around these issues about preventative management of all our city building. Thank you.
Councilor Lee.
Through you to the manager, could we, everything's been said about the plowing so far. They did a great job, and going through other cities and towns, I can see the difference. But next week when we get the presentation, can we just also, could you let us know what certain apparatus and where they're used, like the snow blowers and the bobcats, and just so we can get an idea on, in the future, how we might want to open up sidewalks later after the storms have come and gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Conway?
Yeah, just very quickly through you to the city manager. You mentioned at the high school where they have 2 companies coming in? Okay, how long are they going to be there for?
Yeah, till it gets fixed.
Okay, so, and then they're going to do some training, is that right?
Yeah, for the software program.
Okay. Now, do we have a contract for a follow-up on that if we run into?
We'll be updating the software with Train.
Okay, but I mean, do we have access to that, to those 2 companies?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
We pay a maintenance contract also on the software program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they have to be on call to address any issues as they arise.
Thank you. This item was not on the agenda tonight, but the thing is, Councilor Leahy suggested that it would be a good idea to review this. But with the snowstorm that we had, the number of issues that were raised because of the unusual cold weather, I think this was appropriate that our listeners, people who do watch, become aware of what transpired during this time. But I also want to commend Mr. Belgard. During the snowstorm, I literally drove downtown and all around the city between the police doing what they were supposed to do and your trucks. I mean, I've never seen the city so open as I did. And this was as the snowstorm was ending. I was expecting to see, no parking. I mean, by the time you were finished, we were ready for business for the next day. So I want to thank you for that extra effort, everybody. And Mr. Winwood, Chief Winwood, and Chief Taylor, thank you. Okay, It's 7 o'clock, and we're going to go to a public hearing. Okay. All right, 4-1, order abandoned portion of Newell Street, second reading. To vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interests and rights in a portion of Newell Street in the city of Lowell. Okay. Those who want to speak in favor, are there anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm Environmental Officer for the City of Lowell. I work in the Department of Planning and Development, and I'm speaking in favor of this abandonment. Just as a point of reference, Newell Street is located on off of Chelmsford Street, just past Plain Street, going toward Cross Point. When you're driving down Newell Street, the pavement ends abruptly just shortly before Doane Street Park. The portion of the street that we're proposing to abandon is a vacant area of land, unmaintained, and not currently utilized. And we've received reports over time of illicit drug use in the area, of security concerns from local businesses. And what this abandonment essentially can do for the city is, or even for the abutting property owners, is afford them the opportunity to maintain and secure their properties in that area. And additionally, what it can also do is allow the city to put this land on the tax rolls, provide additional tax revenue to the city. I had the opportunity actually this morning to speak with Mr. John Dowling, who is one of the abutting property owners to this portion of Newell Street, and just to speak to the ability of a property owner to maintain and improve that area. He intends to do this, so he would like to fence his portion of Newell Street if the proposed abandonment goes forward, and utilize that for his business with some parking and storage and other items.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor?
Yes, my name's John Donald. I'm the owner of the property on Lowell Street and Doane Street, and I have garages there. And I do a lot of work on the city of Lowell, construction and stuff, and brought in a lot of tax money and everything. This property was vacant at one time, and I was going to turn around and sell it. I would try to put condos there, and it didn't go over too good. So I put garages there, and now I'm looking to get a little more storage on Newell Street. I cannot build on it because it's just going to be vacant land. I'm going to fix it all up, gravel it. The water from Newell Street drains onto my property, and I'm going to take care of that. And it's also a fire hazard. The fire department cannot get down the street on Newell Street to the back. So I'm asking this for a favor to abandon it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else speak in favor? Speak in favor? Closed. Now I'd like to open up the hearing for anybody that wants to speak, who wants to speak in opposition. In opposition?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tucker. I live at 38 Newell Street, and I just wanted to ask Mr. Dowling, you're just going to fence it?
I see.
Are you just going to fence the property, or you?
All the property in.
Okay, that's what we were concerned about, because there's a 4-foot drop from the end of my property to where Mr. Dowling's 3 properties are, and we wanted to make sure that, quite frankly, we didn't want the big trucks and the excavators coming down and using that as a mean of egress to get into the lower property.
Okay. Does this answer your questions?
I hope so.
Can I speak on that?
Yep.
What I'm gonna do is fence it in, put a gate there.
Please come to the mic.
What I'm gonna do is put a fence around it and put fabric in the fence so you can't look at the equipment and stuff. The equipment's gonna be parked there. It's not gonna move. all summer. It's just a parking lot, really, for the extra equipment he had. And by garaging this in Lowell, the city of Lowell gets all the tax money from the excise taxes and everything. I also got garages there with, what they call it, limousine service, and a landscaper, and all that tax money goes for the excise taxes for the equipment goes to the city. So I am going to straighten it out and not use it.
Okay. Councilor Ellis, do you have a question?
So are the neighbors satisfied that you now know that he's going to fence it in, and your concern is that you don't want the vehicles to enter or exit on that property?
We're also concerned about the snow storage.
Okay. But he addressed your concerns that there will not be any exit or egress because he's putting up a fence, correct? Okay.
So you're not driving up and down Newell Street? At no point?
No,
You're not going to drive up and down Newell Street with the gate?
I'm going to put a gate there. I will not be using Newell Street as just to put my vehicles there and they'll be there all summer.
So the vehicles are going to be coming up and down the street?
No, they're not going to be coming up. They're going to move. I have to have a way to get them in there.
Okay.
And you still have the other 20 feet of the other side of the street to put whatever snow you want. You know, the snow is not in it.
It's an issue for me because where the property line ends, that's my driveway, 45 feet wide. And there's a set of boulders down there right now that go down about 40 feet, and they push the snow down to the boulders, and when the snowstorms get bigger, it comes out, and it blocks my driveway and the fire
Well,
hydrant.
probably we can move it if that's the case, you know.
My concern is that I'm going to come home one day and I'm going to see your front-end loaders going up and down my street.
You're not going to see them. They're not even registered in the summertime.
So there's no vehicles
They
going up.
stay there.
You're gonna get
them
them?
in.
Okay.
they stay there.
I'd like to have
Mr. Mayor.
the city manager speak on this.
Okay. No, I was just going to have these two gentlemen meet with you
Right.
and resolve this issue.
That's
before
what
we-
I'd suggest
Before we proceed.
Yeah, I'd
vote
have,
on
maybe
this.
we can put this over for 2 weeks and allow Sarah to sit down with the two and resolve any issues that they might have.
I mean, I think it's important that we, that we address the neighbor's concern, but there's
Right.
good real tax money that, on an abandoned piece of property that's generating nothing. But let's make sure
If we can
that,
continue it for 2 weeks, we should have an opportunity to sit down with them and broker a compromise.
okay.
Well, why can't we do it now? I have a few questions, answer the questions, and I'll either be agreeable or not agreeable.
Okay, well, one at a time,
I
Mr.
don't-
Mayor, we can have him ask questions, and if he wants to answer them, that's fine, but,
I don't think this is a time and place to
Okay.
have this. I mean, I'd rather have you meet with the administration and yourselves and settle down, and we can put this hearing over for the next 2 weeks.
Will we
and
get,
hold
will
this
we get
June
notice
30th,
in the mail?
January 30th,
Will we get notice in the mail?
yes.
Because we didn't get notice for this. My neighbor came down and
Well,
handed it.
you're going to get notice in regard to having the meeting,
Okay.
correct, Mr. Manager?
Well, we'll make sure you're notified we'll make sure you're notified. Sarah, will you make sure that they're well aware of 2 weeks from today? We'll make sure you
I'm not
know.
looking for trouble with Mr. Darling. We have issues. I don't want heavy equipment running up and down. No one else does.
This happens all the time, and we're pretty successful of reaching a compromise if we sit down and work out
I don't
together.
think I had any problems in the last 3 years at the property.
okay,
No, you've never had
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
I'll sell it,
to,
but-
motion to refer this to the city manager and reconvene the public hearing, and
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mercia, to have the city manager review this. Thank you.
Wait 2 weeks.
All right, next is, okay. Yeah. All right, next we have the public hearing for utilities. National Grid and Verizon New England request permission to install stub pole at the corner of West Genesis and Rexford Street. Second reading? That's it, okay. Want to open up the hearing for those in favor? Those in favor?
Nicholas Bostonetto, city engineer, speaking in favor of the stub pole. I believe what happened was the utility pole has a guy wire that was tied to a tree. The tree went down, so now they have to install a little stub pole to kind of tie the guy wire so it holds up the utility pole. So speaking in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor? In favor? Anyone else? Hearing closed, hearing none, hearing closed. Anyone speaking in opposition? In opposition? Excuse me, anyone speaking in opposition? Okay. Hearing closed.
Move approval.
Thank you, okay. Okay, I'd like to have a motion to refer this to the wire inspector for report and recommendation.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Kennedy, and second by Councilor Conway. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the auditor's business. We have communication from the auditor, December 2017 year-to-date budget report. A motion to accept and place on file.
So moved.
Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Thank you. Next, we have communication from the city manager. The first one is motion response, Claybrook Culvert. Any discussion? Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, we've had a discussion about this, and I've also had a discussion with the city engineer regarding this, but I think it would be helpful if the city engineer could give a summary of why the cost estimate is so high. Because to me, when I first brought this up, it seemed to be a pretty easy fix, that all we really needed to do was to continue the culvert down beyond the dam, and then that would take care of Claybrook forever. But this report indicates that the cost of doing that is more involved than what I thought, and also is much more expensive than what I had anticipated. So I just think it would be helpful for the viewers at home if there was just a summary explanation of why it's the way it is.
Mr. Boston, would you give a brief summary in the answer to Councilor Kennedy's question?
Yes, sir. So this plan dates back to at least 1970. We still have the plans upstairs in the engineering office. And what the plans called for was for inserting 2 5-foot wide culverts underneath the VFW highway to take Clay Brook from where it enters the river now to a point between the dam and the O'Donnell Bridge. So when we're talking about 2 5-foot wide culverts, we would have to literally tear out the whole VFW, all the utilities, put in these culverts, and then punch through the retaining wall next to. So it's actually very, very complicated. I think it's unfeasible. I think in 1970 it was unfeasible. Since then, all the environmental regulations have gotten much more strict. And of course, the BFW highway is MassDOT property. I doubt they would ever even allow us to consider such an option. The reason why you need those huge culverts is because you would be trying to move so much water. And then even if you were somehow to accomplish this feat, the flooding issue really wouldn't be controlled because the slope on the pipes would be so shallow because you're trying to meet the outfall and where the brook is. The slope on the pipes would be so shallow that you wouldn't be able to move a lot of water. You'd end up having to try to dredge the whole Clay Pit Brook for a couple miles. It would be a very big feat, and it would just the cost would just be astronomical, and the permitting would be. It just wouldn't happen. So I think it's at this point it's unfeasible to pursue it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, next we're going to go to informational from the city manager. The Amoresco contract and obligation. Any discussion on that? Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. I appreciate the report, Mr. Manager, but could you just follow up with the list of the properties or the buildings that the contract's actually tied to? I don't know if we have that in information.
I'd ask,
okay.
Catherine Moses is here.
Okay.
The question is, Catherine, what buildings are we talking about that the contract covers?
So the contract actually covered, I think it was something like 36 different city buildings, all of the schools, most of the municipal buildings, but I can get you a specific list of those as a follow-up if that's helpful.
If you don't mind, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll get a follow-up, we'll give a detailed list of each building that is covered by the Amoresco contract.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Elliott?
But the contract still remains in place, and according to this moment, they're still monitoring and they still identify savings that, that we are achieving as a result of the improvements that were made, correct?
Yes, and we have made significant savings pursuant to the contract.
Could that be part of, no objection to Councilman Milano, part of the report? I think that's important
How
for us.
much in savings we've had? Okay, yeah, so we'll get the detailed list of the buildings covered and the savings realized so far.
Right. I think that'd be great, because I did go to the year-to-date expenditure report, and it seems like we're making progress in both fuel and electricity. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Next, the Municipal Website Award. Any discussion?
Maybe the manager?
I'm really proud of this, is that when I first came here, quite honestly, the website was outdated and wasn't very easy to navigate. So Mr. McGovern was the point person on it, and we hired a firm to develop a new website. I think it's a really excellent website. Obviously, the Mass Municipal Association agrees with us. Maybe we just need to update the website to talk about the parking ban a little more in the future, but we'll work on that. But I'm proud of the work that our employees have done, and to get the award from the Mass Municipal Association for the website.
Okay, thank you. The next one we have is the Government Budget Award. Mr. Manager, could you speak on that?
This is getting kind of boring, because this is the third time that Mr. Baldwin and his counterparts have received this award, but I think it's really not only, I mean, Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Conley, and Mr. Healy have done a great job financially, but this budget is made up by participation by every department, setting out their priorities, setting out their costs and their needs and concerns. So it's not just the finance team, but it's every employee in the city of Lowell that contributes to this budget. I think you'd agree with that, Mr. Baldwin. And I just think it's great that this is the third time that, through his lead, we've received this award. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Manager, isn't there several thousand applicants for this award?
Take some credit.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor.
Not to be modest.
It's a national award for throughout the country that municipalities submit to. So we take great pride in the work that's done, and as the manager said, it really is an effort by every employee throughout the city to pull the budget together, so it's really, truly is a team effort.
Thank you. Councilor
I just
Elliott.
want to say very briefly, you know, the progress of the budget and the information that's included makes the process more smooth. It answers a lot of questions that we normally would ask years ago that was not included. So I think it's, you know, I think it's like the Golden Globe of awards for financial management, and I think it really is. It's a good budget, and I know other communities look at our, you know, what is contained, and it is work. I mean, just I can attest to it when you want the information, but at the end of the day, it does, you know, provide information that's helpful, and people can see, if they want to look at the budget, where their taxes are being spent, so, good work.
Yeah, I agree, I concur, because I can recall reading many, many budgets over the years, and to see what we've had in the past few years, not only can you read them, but the thing is, I think our constituents, when they see them, can understand them, how money is spent. Okay, thank you. I need a motion to accept and place on file. Councilor Mercier, and seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All right, we now have excuse me, votes from the city manager to declare surplus and convey parcel 1 and purchase parcel 2 for $1,688.96. Waive the full reading, the second reading. Declaring surplus the property identified as parcel for $1,688.96 containing 928 square feet, more or less, authorizing the city manager to convey parcel 1, Judas A. Thompson, Michael L. Thompson, John Thompson, Daniel Thompson, and Sarah Thompson as trustees of the Thompson Family Trust for $1,688.96. Authorizing the city manager to purchase parcel for $1,688.96, containing 928 square feet, more or less, from Judas A. Thompson, Michael L. Thompson, John C. Thompson, Daniel J. Thompson, Sal A. Thompson, as trustee of the Thompson Family Trust for $1,688.96. Okay, I need a motion to adopt.
Move to approve.
Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilor Leahy?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Noon?
Yes.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Councilor Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilor Conway?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, next, vote to appropriate July 1, 2017 free cash. Yeah. Waive the first reading, the second reading. Appropriate on July 1st, July 1, 2017 free cash. Wait. Okay. Mr. Manager, before I request that, could you, when we talk about free cash, this is another term I use, that we use sometimes, that sometimes our constituents just aren't sure what that is. Could you give an explanation, basically, how the free cash does develop and where we are, how we stand with that?
Thank you very much, and I'm going to ask Mr. Baldwin to give an explanation as to the meaning of free cash, but also what we're asking the city council to appropriate it for.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and I'll try to remain elementary for the folks watching at home. Free cash is a term that finance officials use in Massachusetts specifically to designate not necessarily the amount of money Lowell has in the bank, but at the end of the year, when the auditor submits the year-end report to the Department of Revenue, it's a measure of a snapshot in time of the money available for appropriation after the Department of Revenue analyzes the balance in the general fund and subtracts any outstanding liabilities for taxes owed, grants that may be in deficit, etc., and then certifies as of July 1st how much is available for a community to appropriate. In a lot of communities, the town will let the free cash number roll from year to year and will accumulate a balance. However, in Lowell, the practice has been typically to appropriate a portion of it into the reserve account to help bolster the city's reserve position, as well as to pay back any one-time revenues that may have been used in the budget process. And to the manager's point, that is the plan this year to a certain extent, to pay back all of the monies that were represented to the council, were used in the budget, but would be paid back with the free cash certification, as well as pursuant to a motion by Councilor Elliott to reserve a portion of free cash to be used next year to help relieve the tax burden on residents. So a portion of that is being put into the stabilization account for use next year. It's going to build the reserve, so Lowell will have the highest reserve in the stabilization account in the city's history, and it will also fulfill a number of other financial obligations like the $250,000 promised to the school department, as well as other funds that need to be paid back.
Thank you for that. Any questions, Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. That was a good explanation, because I think it's important that we let taxpayers know exactly what this money is and where it came from and what is the use of it. And I think it's a prudent use. I mean, $4.8 million, it's a combination of conservative estimates when we go to build the budget. Rather than relying on and expecting certain revenues, the council and the administration projects a lower rate. So if it comes in at that rate or more, that's a good thing, rather than have to deficit spend. So I think this is a good measure of what's taking place from a fiscal perspective in the city. I think it's wise to replenish the stabilization. That helps our interest rate. That lowers the amount that we have to, lowers the rate and the money we can save on when we have to borrow. And, the 250,000 for, now, this is for the library aides in the school, because I did go through the various school departments, and they're not hired yet, or they haven't expended from those line items. Is that going to take place soon? I mean, we're halfway through the fiscal year.
I don't have an answer for that, but I can tell you, I promised to give the school department $250,000
Right.
out of free cash, and that's this $250,000. Also, the school department is getting $87,000 in this free cash for their school choice funding, so they're getting that in addition to the $250,000. But I don't know anything about the hiring of the
Well,
aides.
I would plan on bringing those issues up when we go through the year-to-date, and maybe you, Mr. Mayor, can bring this forward to the superintendent or their finance. There are a number of positions, math teachers,
Yeah, math.
ELL, that have not been filled, and I don't understand why. Maybe there's a reason, but they're at the elementary school. And these library aide positions have not been filled. And I know you made that commitment, so knowing we're halfway through the fiscal year, it'd be nice, it'd be good to know, Mr. Mayor, what the
Yes.
expectations are. But anyway, I'll close. I think, giving $500,000 back to the taxpayers is certainly a good move, knowing that taxes just went up. And I think we're being conscious of the impact of taxes and how we can help the taxpayers and still keep the city fiscally sound. And I think it's an important message that we send to the taxpayers, that we're being conservative. We adopt level-funded budgets. We don't like to raise taxes, and including all of us here. And we've got to hold a line. But this is a way to give money back, and I think that's important. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and the administration as well for this report and being conscious of the taxpayers.
All right. Councilor Milonazo, Councilor Noon, and Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification, then a question. On the memo from Mr. Baldwin to the city manager dated December 29th, the first paragraph gives us a date of 7/1/2016 was 4.9 million. Should that be 17? It should be 7. Okay, thank you. And then the other point, this is a very good report, especially as Councilor Elliott mentioned, when some monies are going into the stabilization account and be the highest it's been. What would that do to our upcoming bond review and bond rating? Would it keep it stable, or would it actually potentially improve the bond rating?
It will, at the very least, hold steady the rating, which is always an important thing.
Right.
There is a possibility, if we can make the pitch to the credit rating agencies that we're adding to reserves, that we can make the case for an upgrade. It's always the socioeconomic status of Lowell that holds us back on that upgrade, but it will, at the very least, hold us stable.
Okay. And then just one final point, where you talk about on the free cash calculation page, where you start off with unreserved, undesignated fund balances of $8.8 million. That's not free cash. I mean, in some circles in the community, people were whispering that the free cash has dropped from $9 million to $4 million. That's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. So again, just from the standpoint of what we have in front of us in the calculation and what goes into that calculation to get us to the about $4.9 million is just good general accounting. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Milonazo.
That's correct.
All right. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the manager with regard to this. This is a great news, really. $4.87 million free cash. How many of this will be used in the very near future? You mentioned $250,000 $1 million will be giving to the school suspend account. And you mentioned something about also $800,000 that you will give to the school. So out of those add together, we are not holding $4.7 million. We're holding way less than that, and that will go to the reserve. Is that correct?
Correct. We're paying our obligation, our promise through Councilor Mercier to give the school department $250,000 and this city council their promise with the $87,000 in school choice. But we're also paying off the informant case judgment for $750,000. And we're using other money for, so probably about, how much are we spending immediately? Probably about $1.5 million will be spent tomorrow.
Okay, so how much we have on the reserve right now?
If this transfer is approved, it will be about 10 and a half, almost $11 million in the stabilization account.
Great, thank you very much.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out that the $250,000 going to the school suspense account is necessary in order that the school department can balance their budget. Back last spring, I don't know if anybody remembers, but back last spring, the school committee did not agree with the superintendent's recommendation to cut out the library aides. The library aides were kept, which created a problem of not just $250,000, but about $780,000 in recollection. And so the school department was able to find most of that money, but they needed $250,000, and so that's really what this money is for. So I just wanted to explain that. I think I think that the way that the money is being dispersed is fine.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott?
So the 250 is not to rehire the library aides?
The 250 was just a blanket promise. It comes with no contingencies as to how it should be spent. It was $250,000 from free cash to the school department.
So that increased the city's contribution an additional 250 from the prior appropriation,
Yes.
correct? Connor? Okay.
That's correct, Counselor.
What was the city's cash contribution? That's okay.
Approximately 18 million, 19
Okay.
million, somewhere in
All right.
that.
Thank you.
All set. Need a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Councilor
Second.
Kennedy, second by Councilor Noon. Thank you. All right, ordinance from this, oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Cirillo.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
All right, we now have orders from the city manager. Loan order, additional bridge repair. I need a motion to refer to public hearing on January 23rd, 2018 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Conway. Thank you. Then we have now
What?
a petition by Sandra Medeiros requests installation of a handicap parking sign at 49 Rock Street. I need a motion to refer this to the traffic engineer for report and reconsideration. Okay, Councilor Noon, and seconded by Councilor Conway. Thank you. Any reports from any subcommittees? All set. All right, now we come to the city council motions. Our first motion tonight is by Councilor Cirillo. Request city manager have the Department of Public Works Commissioner provide city council a list of non-operational or disrepair items no later than August 10th of every year, which are vital to our municipal buildings working properly for our fall-winter season of 2018. I need a second. Councilor Kennedy, second. Councilor Cirillo?
Hi, yes, Mayor, through you to the city manager. Basically, what this motion is I'm trying to be proactive as far as the repairs for our municipal buildings. Being in construction, it's one of these things where when these big ticket items like the HVAC units and things like that are installed, there is when they are installed, there's a schedule maintenance plan, and so when they're installed, they'll say, okay, well, this part needs to be replaced in 2 years, or this needs to be oiled every 6 months, or what have you, and what I want with this is to have the city work maybe in July to have a list of items come August of things that need to be repaired or are not working properly, to say, okay, well, here are these items and we need to order parts. So it gives us time to order the parts and have these items fixed and repaired, hopefully before the school year when it's still warm out, rather than when it's cold. And basically what I want to do is I just want to be proactive instead of reactive, because I don't think that it's working as hard as we're trying to repair the items that are coming up. I would like to see some type of schedule and also a list of items that we can review just moving forward, so that we can have these items and these buildings, all of these municipal buildings up and running. And I know that there are going to be issues that pop up here and there, but at least we'll have the bulk of them squared away before the cold weather hits in. So that's the goal of this.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, did you provide a team of people to go around to the different schools and survey the things that had to be done? Didn't you already do that?
Well, Sean Shanahan, the
Right.
building commission, each year has to visit each and every school. And what we did is, we had a team get together and tour the high school relative to that. I met with Sean Shanahan today relative to this preventive maintenance program.
Right, yeah.
And we're going to be getting the report from the Collins Center. Remember, we've engaged the Collins Center to give us a report on how to make the Department of Public Works more efficient. And that will be coupled with a committee that we're forming to do a tour of every public building in the city, not just the schools. A committee of school and city and health department employees to make a list of maintenance items that have to be done in every public building, prioritize those repairs, and then come up with a plan to fund how much we're going to need to make those repairs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Conway?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that this particular motion is an excellent motion. I think, again, these are things that we're going to have to address going forward. And I'll just give you one quick example. Being at the high school for so many years, and the comments I used to make is, why don't we start the heating system up early? Why wait until November or December? And at that particular point, you turn that equipment on, and you find that there are problems. And in many cases, you have to order parts. And we see it right now down the high school, because when I talked to the gentleman down there, he said that they have some parts and it's on back order. And it's going to take like 2 months or 2.5 months to get those parts. And they're due, I think, in another week or two. But the fact is, as Councilor Cirillo was saying, is planning in advance. So if you take something like the heating system, turn it on, then you can plan, find out what type of equipment, what type of parts that might have to be ordered, because again, a lot of that is back ordered. So I think this motion is very good. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, thank you. Motion 2 by Councilor Cirillo. Request city manager direct the law department to provide the city council with a report on the feasibility of creating an ordinance that would require the city council to include a line item in the budget for deferred maintenance issues in all municipal buildings. Councilor
Second.
Cirillo? Seconded by Councilor Kennedy.
Through you to the city manager. Do I get to talk? This is just this is a follow-up to be able to put something in the budget, some funds in the budget for our municipal buildings. So this is, again, this is being proactive in working towards making sure that our municipal buildings are up and running properly before the cold weather sets in. And that's pretty much it. It ties into my first motion, so, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are Council Cirillo's maiden motions, so congratulations. But I think both of these motions, this is something that many members of the City Council has talked about for months. And so is the administration, and so is the school committee, for that matter. And I think that generally what happens, not just in Lowell, but probably in every community, is that, you know, we say that we should set aside money in order to do deferred maintenance at the beginning, before the winter season ends, or at the beginning of the fiscal year. But then when tough years come, we don't do that. That's the first thing that gets cut. But I think that if we are going to be serious about this over the long term, and I do think that it's probably financially advantageous for us to do the deferred maintenance rather than to wait until, you know, there's a break or the heating system breaks down. And so this makes a lot of sense. And I think that if we can put some money like this into the budget, I think that's a good idea as well. I would think that one of the things that the law department should look at in preparing the report is maybe there needs to be a way that the city council can override that, you know, with maybe a 2/3 or a 3/4 vote in any year when times are lean. But that would mean taking the money out. The city council would have taken an affirmative vote in order to do that. But at least I think these motions would allow the city and the city council to get very serious about about doing deferred maintenance before it becomes too much of a problem. For instance, the heating systems, and we got a report of heating systems, not just at Lowell High School, but in many of the buildings throughout the city. And one of the problems is that a lot of the schools have 2 heating systems, but one of the heating systems has been cannibalized in order to repair the heating system at another school. And so now you're down to 1 heating system. So when that goes, then it's a problem. And I think that probably the people that we have on board might be better at taking the heating systems apart than they are at putting them back together, to be quite frank. And that's just because, you know, you need certain skills, you know, in order to do that, and to do that in an efficient way. So it might be good to look into service contracts that the city would enter into, so that we would just have people go out and look at all of these systems, make sure they're up and running, let the city know if there's problems, or if they perceive that there's going to be problems, or there's equipment that's about to fail or is in danger of failing, in order that we can do that. And I think that's smart to do that. And I also think it's financially advantageous to do it for the city. Thank you. So I think these are great motions, and I'm happy to support them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Elliott?
So in the capital plan, which is typically where I'm aware that you put a line item in for deferred maintenance, and we do that, correct? I mean, certainly, I know there's a dollar threshold, but anything, there should be a regular line item, so, you know, the operating budget, we don't have to rely on the operating budget during difficult economic times, which is, as has been mentioned, you know, projects get kicked down, you know, the maintenance gets kicked down the road.
Typically, the projects that have a single dollar value of over $25,000, we try to fund through the capital budget. Whether there's a big ticket item each year, we try to squeeze as many school-related items into the capital plan as best we can.
So once we receive this report from the Collins Center, that will give us an actuarial of what the costs will be for all of the buildings, or the total.
No, the Collins report is going to be a management report to see how we can provide better efficiencies. This working group that I'm setting up with the school department and the city will come up with that figure.
Right, I'm sorry, I understand. So at that point, you'll have a full inventory of those improvements from, I don't know, is there a threshold or that? I mean, simple things like, we had complaints about whether it's a faucet or a toilet or things like that.
Ceiling
that
tile,
routine maintenance that shouldn't take so long, and we shouldn't kick that can down the road all the time. But the management report will address how we can best address that with the school department. And then at the same time, we're gonna get a list and an inventory of those items, some that have to be taken care of immediately and some that are larger scope.
And the Collins report will provide us with systems to track those maintenance issues
Okay.
and better deal with them on a continuing basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any opposition to this motion?
Thank you. I just had some point of information about the budget, proposed budget of 2018, and we did appropriate $1.3 million for the capital plan to do service 3, I believe, roofs for the schools. I think that was pretty important and much needed that we needed to do. So we did appropriate something for a need that addressed a very serious issue with the school. So that's, I just wanted you to know that because you wouldn't have had our budget, but that's what we did. Thank you.
Thank you. No opposition? Oh, sorry, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But again, looking at the auditor's report this evening, not to backtrack, but if you go to the Department of Public Works, I mean, it's just salary and wages and overtime. There's nothing in there that I can see quickly that deals with some of what we're talking about tonight, which is why I think it's so important that we get the Collins report and we actually look at what either capital improvements or the preventive maintenance plan, the fact that the school department and the city is now working together. And by the way, we all know any good preventive maintenance plan, the most important part of that is the attachment A that has every month broken down, January through December, or July through June, that talks about what needs to be done in each building during those months. It even breaks it down so far as to when you get the oil change in the municipal vehicles that are assigned to the DPW or the fire department or the police department. That's all in, or should be in this report. So again, they are good motions, and I think that from the standpoint of what we talked about in the capital plan, very important. But again, in the operating budget, at least again in public works, it's all it is salary and overtime. There's nothing for improvements or repairs that, yeah. Okay, all right, so I'm wrong, okay.
It's in a different section.
Okay.
You wouldn't have seen it there. What section is it in?
Under a different part of the Public Works budget, we have a various school supplies that was budgeted at $148,000 this year.
Okay.
And typically, so that when we report to the state for the net school spending numbers, we try to transfer money into that budget as needed, as the need arises for school projects.
Right, but again, by going by school, you're looking at custodial supplies of $2,000, $3,000. It's not what I think we're really talking about here. But at the end of the day, we're heading in the right direction, so that's the point. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, next, motion by Councilor Noon, require city manager provide information regarding major projects in the city as well as information regarding UMass Lowell projects. Second?
Seconded.
Second.
Councilor Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, the motion speaks for itself. I'm waiting for a report and
Okay,
talk about
thank
it.
you. Motion, any opposition? Motion passes. Second motion by Councilor Noon, request city manager provide information regarding outreach and hiring process, including breakdown of results in the following categories: race, gender, veteran status, and residency. A second?
Seconded.
Second.
Councilor Cirillo.
Same, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself. I'll wait for a report and then expand on it.
Opposition? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that motion through you to the city manager, do we give any preference to people that live in the city of Lowell?
I do. I certainly do. We don't have a residency requirement,
No, we don't.
but we do prefer
I
residents.
prefer. Thank you so much.
Okay. No opposition. Motion passes. The final motion for the evening, Councilor Milonazo, request city manager report on the appropriate protocol for downtown snow removal. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. What I mean by...
Oh, I'm sorry, second by Councilor Mercia.
What I mean by that, from the standpoint of protocol, in the past, first of all, they've done a very good job in removing the snow along the sidewalks. My issue is the snowbanks that people have to climb over to, to plug the meters and to And to think about all of the elderly residents that we have in the downtown, some of them being able to get around because of the snowbanks. And in the past, we've had DPW or private contractors come in at night, come in Saturdays and Sundays to remove some of the snowbanks. And I know that all the snow will probably be gone in February for the Winterfest. But again, we're not just about the Winterfest. We're about making sure that our businesses thrive and that we want to make sure that Lowell's a good place to, and be safe to come downtown. So I don't know what the protocol is when we say we're going to send trucks out there, we're going to send machines out there, we're going to get rid of the frozen snow piles, because I think it is a concern to some of the people that live down there and people that own businesses and people that come downtown to shop and to go to restaurants. So that's the reason for the motion. So whatever the administration can provide would be helpful.
Manager
I
Murphy?
agree with you. I walked down Merrimack Street today, and the snow, you can cross the street, and you'd have to be a pole vaulter to get over the snowbanks, so we need to look at pushing those back. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Council Leahy?
Thank you. On this motion, through you to the manager, this is a discussion we've had a lot of times, and we got to get the businesses to buy in. I mean, I don't understand why they don't think it's a good idea to dig out an entrance to their shop or their restaurant or their store. I mean, I just don't get it, you know. You see people on Merrimack Street, like you said, they're not familiar, they park, they run across the street, and then they realize they got to go 40 feet up or 40 feet back to get to the sidewalks. So, do we have any outreach with the businesses downtown? I know it's kind of sketchy and it's...
Oh, yeah, we DPD reaches out and does surveys and talks to them. It's a continuing thing, but we're going to be looking at it from our standpoint also. It's about, we're going to treat the sidewalks much better with rock salt and that. And after today, I agree with you 100% about the snowbanks. What we did before is, remember in the big snowstorm, what we did is at midnight, we would take the bobcats and everything and push the snow out into the street and then plow it. We may have to do that again. We'll look into the cost and and doing that. But we've done that before. It's something we certainly can look into.
But even through the downtown business, if there's a downtown business group or the Chamber of Commerce, you know, we should have a point person to be in touch with these business owners and say, look, you know, we're going to help you, but you need to help us also. So, I mean, they can't rely on the city to do it all. They should be out there helping us. And
we do have somebody at DPD that it's designated specifically for downtown, and we'll continue to do the outreach to, they need to shovel a little space in the snowbank so people don't, when they come across the street, they can get through.
And the other thing we just need to think of is, like, on a day like today when it is warm, just getting those entrances to the curbs cleared again with the slush, because people going around with their carts or the wheelchairs or whatever, it makes it difficult for them. I know we can't be in all places at all times, but even if we designated one person for the downtown area on a day like today, just to clear those areas again, that might be something we can try to think of. So, thank you.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Announcements.
Announcement. Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Kennedy?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, a week from Friday will be the Mass Municipal Association's annual meeting and trade show. And as part of the events for that, there are several workshops that are held throughout the day on issues like downtown revitalization and other things that would be of interest or should be of interest to everybody on the city council. So I would just like to urge everybody, if they're able to try to attend that event or part of that event. I do believe that the speaker on Saturday morning is going to be Jeff Speck, who we've had here, and I also think that the featured speaker is Brashears, the guy that climbed Mount Everest back in the 1980s. So besides those two attractions, I think that a lot of the workshops that are held at that event are worthwhile for everybody, and so I would just encourage anybody that's able to on the city council to try to attend.
Mr. Manager, could you help get that information out?
Yeah, and we certainly will provide funding for the registration fee for any city council that wishes to go. We'll email you the registration form and the list of seminars. You have it, yeah, in your MA, in the Beacon. You should have received the Beacon, but if you didn't. But you can contact our office. We're going in. Friday from like noon to 5 is the best time to be there for those presentations.
Okay. Motion, any further announcement? Motion adjourned. Council Elliott. Council Cirillo, second. Thank you.
In the park.
Yeah.